So here's the way that I do my games. Some people might not agree with it. It's not that I don't try to, let's say, how can I say it? I don't try to ignore players. But let's say Narzak, for instance, he's a good friend of mine. I've known him, like I said, for over 30 years. But if they're not, it might be harsh, but if they're not going to fight for that spotlight, I'm going to award the other people who do the spotlight.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm the GM Philosopher. I'm joined today by DM Ramos of Dungeons and Twenties, my good friend William, who now I play in William's games on Sunday evenings. I play Gramazek of the Black Horns, Lawful Evil, Minotaur Bard in the Crimson Basgoth campaign in his World of Solaire. And I'm starting this new series of videos where when I'm a player, I'm going to kind of talk about things, insights I glean from the experience being a player that maybe can help game masters. Now, the purpose of this channel is to empower game masters to run better games. And me and DM Ramos are going to be talking about this. I've got some lessons I want to talk about. Now, I'm going to put a link to the session. We live streamed the session. I'm going to put a link to it in the description. You can go watch it. You might want to watch it to follow along, to understand what we're even talking about here. But we are going to kind of try to keep the lessons grounded and concrete. So even if you don't watch the session, you can gain some insights from it. But for deeper insights, you may want to watch the session. Plus, it's pretty awesome. This campaign is we're like 53 sessions in or something like that.
It's 50, 54 now, I think. I think it's
54
54.
sessions.
Could be
So
55.
it's getting pretty in depth. It's getting pretty serious, as they say. Definitely worth a watch. But what I would like to do is jump in here, and we're just going to do a little kind of post game conversation. We just got done with the game about an hour ago, give or take. So we're going to just kind of discuss it and talk about some of the lessons that I maybe observed, some of my observations, and then of course William is going to talk about it. Now William isn't on the camera right now because just for camera's sake, camera things going on, but that's all right. We got the audio, so let's just dive into this. First of all, William, I'd like to get your, just from a GM perspective, your thoughts on the session and just how you thought it went. For you, how did it go? What were you thinking while it was going? Just like, uh, just whatever you want to discuss.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my camera's being angry to me today. So, but um, you know what? Usually, I'm pretty happy with the way the sessions go. Every now and then, though, I feel a little off, and I think tonight was the first one I felt a little off. I know for players, I do believe in the agency for players. Um, and I wanted to make sure that everybody got their spotlight. I did feel that I missed Narzag. Well, Narzag I've known for forever, so he has a very interesting way of playing. Um, and Tarnik though, but I
I
know for me, I had a an idea of how I wanted it to go. I felt like I wanted to make it go smoother, but I'm not sure if it went as smooth. I could be wrong because I can't see through the player's eyes. For me, it felt fragmented. I don't know if how else I could capture it, but it felt fragmented. Um, the biggest thing I wanted to do is close Silence arc tonight, and I was going to focus, interestingly enough, on Grom and Cub. Grumthar, I think, had some ideas though and took Grom. So we jumped to Cub for one of his main scenes that we were going to do. And I think we had a lot more functional scenes, which I would describing as, going out and buying things and getting things done. And of course, Grom getting his hirelings. So I think we did a lot of functional scenes and got those out of the way. And I was trying to fast track as quickly as I can through them because I believe functional scenes are okay, but sometimes they just eat up more of the game time for players. And then jumping over to Tarnik and Narzag to get them involved. And of course, we had a pretty good spotlight with Saz and doing his thing, which was, I did like his role play there where he was jumping all over the place because there's things happening for him. Um, Though I was hoping that everybody got some good value out of it as far as I don't know if it was just me, again, feeling fragmented. It didn't usually the game sits right, and I don't usually have a problem with things getting going elsewhere compared to what I was thinking should go because I play along with it. But for some reason tonight, it kind of I don't know. I had a vision which usually doesn't happen, and it completely went the opposite direction. But yeah, that was my take on it.
Gotcha. Well, from the player perspective, I feel like it was pretty smooth. With that being said, I do feel like it was the type of session that I feel like I feel like there are some, and this is kind of the first note I jotted down about the session, which I think might be worth talking about, and also just talking about like for other GMs is players are either okay with sharing spotlight time, i.e., like, sometimes when, especially if the party's split up, obviously everyone's spotlight time takes a hit, right? This is a classic game master challenge. And so in this session, there was kind of a lot of that. We were in like, three different locations for some of the session. And then Saz was by himself, Tarnik was by himself for most of the session. So it's like that makes it obviously challenging for spotlight sharing time. However, I feel like so just me as a player sitting in that session, I had no issue with this. I was invested in the story. I'm invested in the other players. I enjoyed it. Grom got the things done Grom wanted to get done. I made a note. I kind of told you about my goals for the session, and those got like wrapped up to my satisfaction. So as a player, I did not have any, like, it did not feel unsmooth to me at all. But I also feel like the truth is, and this is something that I think game masters need to understand, is that there are some players who go into these things with different expectations, right? I think that I have a very chill expectation when I'm a player, like, because partly because I'm a GM, but also partly because I I understand that if we want to tell a more immersive story, there are times when you have to zoom in on people and on what's going on. You cannot escape that. You cannot tell a deep immersive story if you're constantly like jumping fast from spotlight to spotlight and things like that, right? There are times when you do need to slow down and zoom in. And that is when I think some players might say things like, oh, I'm getting bored or whatever, right? And so this is why I think that there are players who are better suited to what I would call immersive role play, like deep character development and immersive role play. And then there are characters who are better suited to more what I would say fast action adventure games, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? That's kind of my first note.
Actually, it's interesting because of the videos that I'm currently making. At one of the series that I'm going to start, I just did a video, and I have tools that fall in for spotlight because it's such a big thing that I see everywhere. Um, I do believe that you can take spotlight and put it on a person, but what I say is when you do that, uh, it's true that we do have the players being both the audience and the protagonist, but then they become pure audience when they're not in the scene, right? And they're watching the other character. So what I started trying to do is make it like an actual TV scene where there's cross investment, or if not, you just make it entertaining enough that you want to give those anchor points of tension where you stop on to make people still be like, oh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Even though they're not in the scene, and keep everybody invested. But at the same time, I also talk about that this is not going to work if you have casual players. This only will work on the ones that are actually invested, and it takes the type of player to be invested in the game to be able to ingrain themselves in the story of another player or NPC. Because I do play a little bit different compared to other GMs. I do believe that the story revolves around players, but I also believe that there can be movie moments for NPCs, and I make NPCs important by giving them actual depth. And like Silent, if something happened to her, hopefully everybody would care about it. But I know in character, Grumthar or Tarnik probably wouldn't care as much. But player wise, I would like to give her enough depth that players would care about that NPC. It's the same way I do with my pro game. Hopefully, they care enough about this evil character that they had, and she became more of a good character. And now she's growing, and everybody tries to protect her, even though she was kind of a B to everybody. I don't know if I can say that word, but so yeah. But in this one, that's what I should have done. I guess I was trying to keep that rule, but I think in my mind I kind of messed up and I didn't do cross investment, and then I didn't plant certain investment either. Maybe with Cubs scene it might have worked actually because everybody's invested already. They have cross investment, and what I mean by that, they're going to the prismatic forest. Everybody's already been asking about that, and so I shot that in and should have grabbed everybody's attention, saying, "Oh, you know what? That's where we're going. What does this mean?" And I think Saws has some investment, but so far his character has been separate from the group. So cross investment for Saws hasn't quite really hit the rest of the group. The only cross investment that would be, if anybody's onto it, is maybe that he built something to the devil that Grom argued with. So I know you said you were pretty invested in people's stories. I wonder how everybody else was invested in everybody else's story.
Yeah. No, I'm very invested in other people's stories, and so here's another thing that I think about, right? And then I think about, okay, so when I think about some of the other characters, I think, well, what do they maybe think about the session? Did they get enough spotlight time? It's like I felt like I got enough spotlight time. I felt like I did the things I wanted to do. But at the other end of that, like, and I keep talking about this more and more. In fact, this is going to be my next book. I very aggressively advocate for myself as a player. Like like I make it really known what I want to do, and I make a big point to insert myself like when I want to. And I don't know what your take is on this as a game master. I find myself thinking though that players are very much in control of what kind of fun they have in a session. And I know this from experience because every time I'm a player, this is my this is my modus operandi. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a player. I want to make sure to leave enough spotlight time for everyone else. Like in tonight's session, I literally said, Grom is chill in the session. I have like a couple like minor goals, and I may insert myself at some points, but honestly, I mean, I know we're going on the mission in the morning. Other people may have more important role play than Grom. I'm fine to like just let them have more spotlight time because I'm also comfortable to set back because I can be a spotlight hog if I'm not careful. But I feel like I'm pretty mindful of it. But I also feel like I pretty aggressively advocate for myself. So I feel like if I like really, I have a great time in every session, but it's also because I'm not afraid to like do what I want to do. And but I do find myself wondering to what extent do other players feel that they can do this? And I feel like I'm learning more and more as I run my pro games that more and more players are not as comfortable with this as I am. Um, but I try to like make players feel like they can do that. But I find more and more that sometimes you have to kind of pull these things out of players. Well, what are your thoughts on that whole kind of like dynamic?
Oh yeah, and I tell you what, just because I know one of the players has been one of my friends for over 30 years. Um, Narzag and every character that he plays. I kind of know his play style. A lot of spotlight usually doesn't jump on him just because I kind of know through the years how he likes to play. And it feels kind of bad, but I have to kind of choose spotlight when I give him spotlight because a lot of that way that he plays is focused kind of mechanics. And I've told him this before, so it's okay if he hears this. It focuses on the mechanics on certain things and literally taking rules very literally. Um, so sometimes when people are trying to RP with him, he'll literally stick to the rules on certain spots, and Uh, so his role play kind of, I don't know how I would explain it, is um, centered on how best he can role play the rules, while everybody else is more naturally centered on how best they can just role play. Um, so I love playing with him, but he would be one of my bigger challenges. Is he's technically one of the biggest challenges I have when I do deep RP and stuff. Um, and I think Cub, he's a friend of mine too. I can never. I don't know if it's because like tonight he was having technical difficulties, but at the same time, I never in certain games I don't know if he's um, just listening in because he does a lot of listening in. But sometimes I have to go and try to pull him and make sure that he's okay. And it's like, okay, so this is what you want. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Um, from you, I definitely can get a lot of RP. From Grumthar, I can get a lot of RP. Saz is very good at RPing, and I love the way he plays Saz. And of course, Waz is very good at RP. Waz kind of, I'm always worried with Waz because he's also uh, he's half and half, I guess. He can RP when he needs to. Um, at the same time, though, he might lean back too, like he was saying, he'll give the spotlight to other people. So that one I just don't know. It's like, okay, when am I getting away too much spotlight with stuff? When can I go back? That's why at the end of our session I wanted to give that one because I had a scene with Lysara. So in my mind, I have scenes that I want to do with everybody, and so I tried to give those scenes. In fact, there was a scene um, that was gonna I had planned in my mind, and it's a very important scene, so it might just happen without y'all there. But with the progress clocks, I always have these progress clocks, and if everybody was at the Naked Maidens, there was going to be a scene where some very important people show up, and it even summons Crinvia there, and it has to do with affecting not only you guys but the rest of the campaigns in the world. Um, and it kind of not it didn't get there because I think Grumthar is also a big RPer. And I think the way that he's playing his character, he's taking charge and trying to get the group together and saying we're going to go over here. And so I followed that path, and I kind of avoided the others. So yeah, I think with you guys, you're pretty good at RPing. I think it goes down the line from there. Maybe not RPing, but actually pushing along y'all's narrative. I think it starts with you and Grumthar, then Tarnik. I would say Saws, Cub, and then Narsag. If I were to give y'all an order of pushing for y'all's characters.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned Narzag being a bit of a challenge from a GM perspective, which I feel like I understand what you're saying because some players, the way they do things can make us think, oh no, like, am I doing good enough by that player? Am I giving them a spotlight time? Are they having fun? You know, uh, but if you could maybe, and also Tarnik. So this is interesting. His Waz is a player who is very, very deep and immersive, but also kind of quiet. I feel like, right? Because I've played a lot with Waz too, and so that those types of players to me are in a danger zone because sometimes if I'm not careful, they're easy to almost like shortchange because they don't speak up as quick as some other players. But then,
Yeah.
I mean, but they care like a lot about it. So, like, what is your approach with players like that? Like, and when you mentioned Narzag, I'm also interested in like you mentioned that the way he role plays is more maybe mechanics based RP than like RP. But I'm interested for you, like, what's the inner challenge there that you think about?
Um, Waz is very good. So far, I've enjoyed the way he goes with the game. Um, how's best to describe it? I will say Waz and Dave have like some of their personalities just shoot through the characters, right? So it's very interesting the way that they have play styles, and I love the way that Dave plays Grumthar. Um, and sometimes I kind of also worry with Dave too. It's like, okay, is he getting enough spotlight? Am I following his backstory? And I always keep up with everybody's backstory, but it's only like I pepper it. I don't throw it all in. With Waz, I'll say that. So here's the way that I do my games. So some people might not agree with it, and it's not that I don't try to let's say how can I say it? I don't try to ignore players. But let's say Narzak, for instance, he's a good friend of mine. I've known him, like I said, for over 30 years. But if they're not, it might be harsh, but if they're not going to fight for that spotlight, um, I'm going to award the other people who do the spotlight. And the only reason I do that is because I've done it to a point before in the past where quiet people who are not giving out that much spotlight and not fighting for it, I would try to pull them in and I would ask them questions. And it's weird to think for them sometimes it might become not uncomfortable, but what's the best word for it?
You mean almost like high pressure?
Almost like maybe a slight pressure that they have to perform when they're not ready for it. And with quiet people, the only reason I say this is because when I started D&D, I was one of those quiet people. I'm a very introvert person, and a lot of people don't think it's real, but I'm an extremely introvert person. And when I was younger, I was extremely shy. So when I played with groups of people, and it was to do my turn, I didn't know how to roleplay yet. I would be like, "Oh, okay, so I'm going to do this and this and this," and I was having fun waiting to get to a high point in the game, and I don't know what that high point might be, but I had already saved my what do you call it, mental strength to do something then. Compared to everything else, I was like, no, this is not the right time. This is not the right time. Okay, this is the right time. So with players like that, that's usually what I try to do. I will go back to them, but unfortunately, my time will go back to the ones who are pushing the game along, and then I'll try to go back to the quiet ones and make sure. And if there's a big scene, then I'll keep the scene there and I'll run it for a good 20 minutes, but I'll try to make it entertaining enough for everybody else too. That's, like I said, cross investment and such, which I'm trying to get better on. Um, so, Narzag, the best way to explain it is because he reads a lot of the rules, so he likes the rules. So it's not necessarily that he's RPing through the mechanics, but he's literally taking the mechanics as word per word, and then he'll make his rules not pass those lines, which I think y'all have noticed. I think y'all kind of pick up on what I'm talking about. I think Waz one time told him we're RPing this because he said make your bird or your eagle fly around here, and he's like, oh well, it says this on the rules or something like that. I forget what it was, and then like Waz was like, no, we're RPing it.
Yes.
And I, like I said, I've told Dwayne this many times. But I, me and him have had conversations, and I said, okay, well, you're RPing, and I tell him, he enjoys the rules, but sometimes I tell him, I know you enjoy the rules, but sometimes just let yourself go and kind of put them in the back, and then let's just naturally, organically flow with it. And I'm not trying to pressure him into it, but at the same time, I will give time to the players who are pushing for it. And there's certain characters that he'll play that he's actually pushed for it and he's actually out there. And it, it takes a table to find a perfect fit where everybody kind of fits in, and he sometimes plays characters where he might joke around, and I think he killed two of the characters by waking dragons and doing other stuff in some other games, and everybody was like mad. It's like, what are you doing? So yeah, he can be a joker with trying to make jokes. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Sometimes I'll just give spotlight to the ones who are pushing for it. And like I said, I'm not trying to be mean, but at the same time, I'm also not trying to overstep and pressure quiet players too much.
Got you. In your experience, have you ever had that come back and then be like, you're not giving me any spotlight time? Or do you find that pretty consistently or more than half the time? Do you find that tends to be consistent with what you discover they like? Because I think that's a big line that a lot of GMs struggle with. And I know that I have really fought that line myself, trying to figure out what I believe about it. Um, and currently, my current belief is this. Like, this is kind of my program that I'm using right now. Is like, I cannot I cannot let players sit too much in the background because they don't speak up, because I feel like I've seen that too many players that I've played with, that I've gamed with, they don't, for some reason, maybe they want more spotlight, but they do not go grab it. And if I don't bring them in, then they feel like they didn't get enough spotlight time. So I guess I feel like it's interesting what you're describing
I,
right now is kind of, I feel like how I used to think about it, but I do feel like recent experiences in my pro games over the last 2 months have made me change my program. My program has now become, no, I'm going to make sure every single player is pulled in. And I would rather deal with that pressuring them than them feeling like they're not getting spotlight. It's like I choose that problem over the other one, right? If that makes sense?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
think it definitely makes sense. I think just with my style, I haven't had anybody complain. I don't know if they are mentally, but they haven't brought it up to me. I do have like my other complaints that have popped up before. Like me, I've had like in my pro games, the other one that I run, I've had it where they were like, okay, you have way too many decisions, man. We got this problem to solve. We got this problem to solve. And I was like, they're rumors. It's okay. You don't have to go and after every problem. I'm just presenting these options to you. Um, think of it like a burger place. They got a lot of options, but you're only going to go with the number two probably. So, so I have had that complaint. I've had, interestingly enough, I've had I don't know if you'll watch this or not, a demo, but I've had where because I just published my book and I have the only other complaint I've had is my creatures are very powerful. Um, and I've told them there's some creatures in my world that are not meant to be defeated, basically, unless you're level 20 and you have a whole bunch of help. Um, but I haven't had very many people as far as spotlight, most of the time so far, at least from what I know, this is only going by what people have told me. Everybody's enjoyed the games. Um, I haven't had very many people complain about the spotlight stuff, and I haven't had very many people complain that I guess they were bored. So I don't know. Maybe I should do a questionnaire.
Well, I'm not
um,
trying to plant a problem where there isn't one, because it's possible that you have just had different experiences with different gamers, right? That's super relevant also.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and since I've come back, a lot of I started with pro games right away because I played with some of my friends in Midland. They're the ones that got me into it. But when I got into it, I knew how to DM from being young. I've been doing it for over 30 years. So, and I tell stories and books and done acting and stuff. So, um, I tried to do as much as I can to keep everybody entertained, even if it's not their scene. And that's where I got this idea from for my story engine and from novel writing and screenplays. So hopefully I'm doing that in y'all's game. I'm hoping my main objective is to be able to play how I'm playing, give somebody a 20 to 30 minute spotlight and have everybody else also entertained because they think they're looking into a movie. I don't think I've gotten there yet. I'm sure I'm not gotten there yet, but that's why I'm also writing the book, not only to help other GMs, but also to help myself based on these fundamental um, pillars of storytelling. Because I do believe that, yes, back in the day, we only had theater, we had novel writing, now we have TV and movies, but we also have another media, which is RPGs now. And it's still about storytelling, and those same fundamentals fall into RPG. Now we just got to actually make it tangible. And I don't think anybody's done that yet because nobody's akin it to how the three act structure works. Um, so yeah, I give a lot. Like if you're in the game, and I got that cross investment, which people probably might not know what that means, but and have that. There's a lot of things that work in it, which I don't think I did tonight. But when it's good, you have that cross investment. One example would be in the pro game. I had it where Cedric was attacked by a nom and he was dying. I could hear everybody else in the background. Wait a minute, is that possible? Hey, no, he can't die. What about if we do this? Doesn't he have this? So I knew that they were implanted and had investment, even though that scene took about 15, 20 minutes, but they weren't even in it, but they were in it as players. But as player characters, they weren't in it. And that's what I mean is that investment because everybody is invested into either the NPC or the character. And that's what I tried to build with even from Silent Here or with Amara in their game or even other characters that I might join in. Otherwise, it won't work. And then people will be bored when it's not their spotlight. And they'll be like, oh, I'm going to look at my phone or I'm bored. I'm just waiting for my turn. And that's my biggest thing is it doesn't matter if somebody doesn't get the spotlight, but you as the DM have to orchestrate it enough to keep their interest, even though they're not in the scene. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, totally, totally. And speaking of that, that actually that no, that's very very informative. And I just want to let viewers know, like, not only can you watch once again, you can watch the session and see exactly what we're talking about. I'm going to link to it down in the description, but also, William, isn't your Soul Air setting like your whole the book about your world state and setting? Isn't that currently available?
Yeah, that's actually available on Amazon. I finally got it. It's 455 pages.
Heck yeah.
Basically, has all the major NPCs and all my Aragon NPCs and all the gods. And I also have a lot of tables in there um, dealing with hopefully the pain points of DMs for like anything from searching for herbalism to explaining what mundane medicine is versus magical medicine and what works, what doesn't work, and um, also how money works. I actually built a new school of magic called Vermancy, which deals with nothing but verifying money and making sure people aren't using illusion magic to kill the economy and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. In your games, you've probably had players make illusionary coins to buy things.
Yes, then that player would probably be Narzag.
um,
He's good to point out certain things that he finds in the cracks of the rules and stuff. Um,
nice.
but what I was going to say, another thing,
Oh,
because I'm a
which,
player in your game.
by the way, for the viewers, we're going to link to the Solaire world state guide in the description. So if you watch that video and you're interested in DM Ramos's world state setting, you should check that out because it's awesome. Anyway, okay, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you. I was going to say because I am a player, and I've actually been trying to do the same thing you're doing right now. I'm trying to figure out what I want from your games and what I'm feeling, and I try to be aware of um, what I'm missing out on or getting in return. And I found I'm a big spotlight hog as a player. So what ended up happening though, it actually started working in reverse for me. So while I might have like broken in a lot of scenes and talked and felt comfortable doing that, what actually happened, I became aware and I was like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't talk. So I found myself now being very quiet and waiting until you actually pull me in. And I'm not sure if that's correct or not because lately, and I love your game, so I'm just kind of telling you what I feel. Lately, it doesn't feel natural for me because I'm waiting for you to pull me in compared to when I'm at a table, an actual real table, my character would just speak up. And I think that's the difference between online and real tables. Usually you can just speak up and you don't know in online when you should speak up because it's like, oh man, am I going to be rude by interrupting them? When in an actual table, real life table, you're like, oh, freak this. I'm just going to interrupt. So like, Darren's going to lift and throw a bottle over there. But, but with online, I never know now. That's why usually I think I'm waiting for you to pull me in, and I don't know how it is for other players. But then it starts feeling unnatural because now it is still like a small turn based thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and the only reason I started doing that because in the beginnings, I think, especially in the games that we had on Tuesdays, I love those. But then I know that people are paying for pro games, so I also don't want to be rude and just steal the light as well. So I don't know if that makes a difference.
No, it does make a difference. And so, I mean, I'm still trying to, I mean, obviously the key would be to figure out 100% what players want, right? There's a bit of a mystery about this for every GM, and also because every player is different. But so when I hear you say that, my initial reaction is I have a couple thoughts, and I want to talk about these because I think they might create value for those watching. Um, so number one is when I hear you say that, I would say, okay, experimenting with taking a step back and waiting until called upon, if that doesn't feel natural, what I would always want a player to do then is to go ahead and go back to what feels natural and what they're enjoying, and then not holding back from that creative endeavor. And this is actually confirmed by something that happened in tonight's session. Tonight's session where I was a player, and your session is probably the session where I said and did the least of any one of the sessions I've played in, right? But I found myself more than ever realizing that I was enjoying some of the drama going on with the other players. And so, but in order for there to be drama with the other players, someone needs to be jumping in and doing something, right?
Yeah.
So, and I realized that I enjoyed the moments when people were jumping in and doing things. I was like, oh, because it like created an energy that I was enjoying, even though I wasn't in the scene. Whereas I feel like when that energy is lower, and this is just something I realized tonight. This is actually one of my notes. I realized that on the scenes where it was more like it felt like you pulling things out of quiet players, or like and the people weren't jumping in and there wasn't that excitement. It was less entertaining to watch, but it had very little to do with you as the GM, and it had everything to do with player energy levels, right? So
Yeah.
I think that when players jump in and they have a high energy, and if they want to have a high energy, they go ahead and do it. It actually makes the whole game better for everyone. I feel like I've had no evidence to contradict that, and all evidence to support that hypothesis, which is kind of the hypothesis I maintain right now, which is why I would say, oh, if you want to jump in, please jump in. In fact, I've often said this on my channel. I would so much rather have six players all try to talk at the same time and have to sort that out. That's such a better problem than like nobody saying anything and trying to figure out what to do about that, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah, I agree. I
yeah.
agree. Actually, that falls on that. That's why I usually end up rewarding the people with the high energy, that more spotlight, because I know that there's going to be movement. I know that there's going to be conflict. Like tonight, I think you and Grumthar were the first in high energy because y'all were going back and forth, and you were letting Grumthar have his, you know, pretty big say before Grom said anything. Y'all's name are so similar. I'm confused. Grom and Grumthar. So, because I think Dave has high energy. He has high, and he plays Grumthar so aggressively too, right? I think it's his style
Yeah.
of. I haven't seen him play other characters, but he has that aggressive. Let's do this. Let's get this done. Quick, 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 quick. Um, and it's interesting to watch that between you and him. You have more of that laid back. We're gonna do this. Silent.
Yeah.
How are you doing? And then, uh, and then you have the high energy when Tarnik does get involved, and he gets those tense moments. Tarnik is really good at making tense moments, and sometimes I get worried. It's like, man, I hope they're not taking this personally. They're doing really good RP. It's like, and then
Yeah.
Dave is like above table. What was going on here? It's like, it's like, oh no. Uh,
To me,
and
that makes it so entertaining, and I love that. And so that's why, I mean, like, I would always say, like, with Theron in the in the Monday morning game, I would always say, oh, no, no, please jump in and speak up. Like, if someone tries to say something, or I want to put spotlight on someone, I'll do it. But I've never ever ever in my whole history of running games ever felt like, man, I wish this player would just back off a little bit. Like, I've never ever felt like, and I've had some aggressive players, and I always loved it. Like, I don't know, that's just my thought on it. I just think it makes the whole game better.
I
Um,
think it's because through conflict is the only way that the story goes through. And you actually have a different um, style of running games too, because I do use NPCs to kind of get the story moving. And I think y'all's group actually has not had an NPC except for maybe Volsa for the longest time. Now you have two, which would be Silent and Volsa. Most of my games usually only have one NPC, and I noticed that you have multiple NPCs in order to keep the game. I guess I don't know if that's your intent to keep the game movement with NPCs.
so that's
Um,
well, actually, I've been changing that. At this point, I feel like I've been really, really open to being willing to let NPCs go unless player characters try to keep them around. And then also kind of keeping them in the background. This is the intent. I don't know if it comes off this way, but trying to keep them kind of more in the background unless they're called upon. They do have their little stories that play out, but to be honest, I feel like I'm doing less story pushing with NPCs than I've ever done. Um, and I'm interested in your perspective on that, because I feel like my
yeah, no,
attitude toward NPCs has really shifted in the past 4 months. I have felt
it's,
like I've
me
dialed way back on them.
I actually noticed that you have dialed back on them,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is interesting for me because I do love the interaction that um, oh my god, Cynthia, Cynthia had with Theron, and I noticed that you dialed back, and I was like, oh man, no, don't dial back. I actually like that interaction.
Okay.
I'm the complete opposite. I do the opposite, and this is one I don't care about. I was like, people say, "Hey, man, don't take the spotlight." It's like, no, trust me, I'm not taking the spotlight. I want to make a story of the NPCs. The whole reason that I put NPCs in there is to make them cared about. If I can't achieve them to be cared about and put time into them, because I'm not the only one that's putting time into them. I want somebody, and I think Ramthar or Grom has been putting enough time. Nobody else has because only the path was Grom. In a way, the group has though, because now they've gone to the Hells. So now that builds cross investment and investment in itself, right? So that's what I use them for. And I do give them an importance. All my NPCs are important. They actually manipulate the rest of the world somehow. Um, Even Volsa. Volsa was gonna possibly die, and she ended up living and became part of the group. So now she has an entire storyline, and her storyline actually is attached to one of the dragons from the ancient times. And I tried to make their stories dramatic. Um, in the pro game, we got, like I said, Armara. She was a villain that now is starting to be liked, and people actually try to protect her. And at first, they were like, "Man, she's." Can I say cuss words? I don't know.
You
But
can guess a little
she,
bit. Just don't get me
everybody was like,
demonetized.
no, but everybody was like, "Man, she's such a like a bitch." But everybody hated her, but now they still like starting to grow on her and stuff. And she was extremely powerful. Like she could probably take on some of the strongest characters in my world still. But even though she's not, I had to try to keep her away from battles. But the option to use her is always there. And so I don't know. I do like NPCs, but I also don't want to take the spotlight. And I do push that line. Um, Amara for sure in the pro game, I pushed that line a lot because I think she's been pushing the story. But at the same time, I'm giving agency to the characters if they want to keep that story being pushed. She's kind of told them where everything is going, and they're almost kind of working for her now in a way, partner in a way somehow. And I do believe that currently she's gone. I had to put her away, and now they got another NPC with them. But I don't know. I guess that's what I don't know if y'all. Yes, you as a player, if you see that with like Silent and Volsa, I don't know if you see that I give them that big push and sometimes might take the spotlight away from you.
So no, I do notice that, and my thought about that. So I enjoy that. I personally, like as a player, I do enjoy that. Now, with that being said, there are moments when I notice that, right? And I think, oh wow, there's a lot of story going on with this NPC right now. Like, we're in a scene that is a lot about this NPC. Now, I make that observation. I personally, in your game, I enjoy it. I think it's really fun. Grom, I love having Grom interact with the NPCs. I think it's very fun. Obviously, he has a deep relationship with Silent, and Volsa is an interesting development because, she was at one time Grom's enemy, and now they're like allies. So that's a fun thing. I've never felt like it was a bad thing. Now I don't know how other players feel about it, and I would be curious too because I'm always wondering what players think about the NPCs I put into my games. I have some groups, like my Monday morning 8 a.m. group, they're literally NPC collectors. Like they have probably like, I mean, they have like 10 NPCs that they haul around with them, and they don't let any of them go. Like, I mean, they have the opportunity. They could like leave them at a city or something, but they have dropped off a couple of like weaker, more vulnerable ones, but usually and I kind of I think in the back of their mind, they're like building an army, right? It's like, which I think
Oh
is
my
so much
god.
fun, but I'm always curious what players think about that. So it's just interesting to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, my NPC. Well, there's a big difference too, though, because when I was younger, I played in. Okay, so this is important for me, and this is why, like even my pro game, I always told them, "Look, I'm gonna give a big scene. We're gonna have a cut scene with Amara, and it's between Amara and her sister, Fortuna, and everything was just revolving around Amara." But I told them, I am gonna steal some of the spotlight, but the spotlight is to make it important for y'all's decision, and y'all can actually jump in while this cutscene is happening. It's not like a video game. You can actually jump into this. And there was gonna be a big battle, and it actually stopped because I had already, for my games, I always pre-battle big, fights that are gonna happen between my DOP NPCs. And I don't know who's gonna win, but I usually do 3 main battles, and I see, okay, so she lost this time, but then she beat this dragon up twice on this one, so she's gonna win, and then I write down the notes so I can cinematically describe what happens, and we don't have to roll dice. But they stepped in and said, "No, Amara's part of us now." And they stood up for her, which was surprising to me because I was like, "No, I think they're just gonna let her go. Everybody thinks she's a, bitch." So and so it's interesting when you can get that because it makes a complex character. And I tried to do that with Theron, but, with that, I tell the players what's gonna happen. Some of them were kinda hesitant, but then they're like, "Oh, no, this was actually pretty fun. We actually like this. That's what's pretty cool. I wanna see what happens next." And so there's the distinction I think I tried to give to you guys, and hopefully I pick up on it. I know I'm picking up on you then from you said. I don't know about everybody else yet. But, I've had where I've played in games where they would put, an NPC, and it was a very powerful NPC. And they could just snap their fingers and then something would happen to them or something would happen to us or we were just somewhere else and we couldn't have any say on it. It just happened because it's a powerful NPC. But the thing, just like writing a book, there's a two-dimensional or one-dimensional character, and then there's a three-dimensional character in a book. You have to make the person care about your main character. And there's been problems where, okay, this is my main character, but everybody cares about the backup character in this novel. What the hell? Why is
Yeah.
my backup character more interesting than my main character? And
Yeah.
so I get that from DMs. They think their main NPC character is interesting and they're trying to get the people like all involved. And there's like, I worked on this NPC for so long. I want to see them what all the cool stuff they could do. I want them to know what all the secret things is happening. I don't do it like that. They do have them, but I slowly start revealing them. I uh, because I have to build that care for them first, and I do that through drama, like Grom and Silent. Everything had to do with drama. I had to show her pain. I had to show her being nice, and I had to show her being vulnerable and ignorant. And her biggest mistake was being too ignorant that she helped Grom. And not only a story for you, but a story for anybody that's also watching, and a story for stuff that maybe the other players would be locked into.
Yeah. I do feel like in my games I try really hard to obey. I do have a rule that I follow with NPCs, and you can tell me what you think about this. But my rule about NPCs is there's one important thing about every NPC. None of them are a main character. Uh, they are only supporting characters, and only if they're made so by the player character investment. So I tend to have this rule about NPCs where, as a general rule, they are weaker, they're less resourceful, they're less independent, they're less strong than the player characters. So I feel like I try to maintain this almost like neediness they have, and this like reliance on the player characters, to where the only thing that's really significant about them is that the player characters are investing in them. And if the player characters were to stop investing in them, they would they would likely, like, I mean, they may not stop being unique, they may not stop being exceptional, but it would definitely taper the curve, right? Like, of their exceptionality. And I try to obey that like law. It's like a law of like I might call it the law of main character proximity or something like that. Um, and I feel like I do that because I want to make sure that player characters always feel like they're superior to the NPCs and needed and wanted and like important to them, or sometimes hated or resented by them in some cases, right? Um, but anyway, what do you think when you hear that as a player in my game? What do you think about that?
Um, I did notice that, and as a player, really, I don't have any. I'm kind of neutral on it,
Hmm.
um, because so far I'm a big RPer. So, as them being more powerful than me or less powerful, I can't really judge it right now. I don't really know what to think of it. So far, I've had fun. Um, I do it a little bit differently. I'm pretty sure you've noticed that my characters are actually however y'all meet them. I don't have a rule to make them weaker or stronger. It's whoever you meet during the meeting.
Yeah,
Silent, of course, is weaker than y'all because no matter kind of beat up her the people that she came out to fight with, but she's getting stronger. Um,
yeah,
especially in the story arc now, she has some stuff now with her. But Volsa, y'all met, and she was pretty equal to y'all, and I think she's been stayed pretty equal. Let me see who else. Y'all haven't really had any other NPCs that actually stayed with y'all. The two orcs that you had first hired, I actually wrote some stories for them, but then they didn't survive long enough. So I was like, yeah, well, I guess I'm gonna throw those stories away. Never mind. So, um, yeah, they were weak. So I don't really have rules to say that they're weaker or
yeah,
stronger. I just have them based on the story, and then I try my best to make sense of it. So, like in my pro game, they met the town. We had one player who was just chaotic, and he ended up killing one of the shopkeepers that one of the ladies actually knew as a husband. She didn't know that he was dead, and then you know, uh, they just slaughtered a lot of the what do you call it, like towns guards or whatever. So yeah, all of the NPCs that they would meet up with, they were just at the mercy of the player characters. But then in the other town, they met people that were a little bit more tougher, stronger, and they started meeting some NPCs that could. It was only one character, of course, not every character, but they started meeting people that could actually stand their ground, and somebody tried to attack them. And but they got attached to one of the little girls. They didn't want to leave her behind, and they got attached to an older gentleman that was kind of weak, but he had like a long history of being a powerful wizard back in the day in his adventuring days. And he was like, "Well, I don't remember the fireball spell, but let me try." And he would mess up. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no, that was not it. So they got attached to them, even though they were weaker. But yet, at the same time, Amara's very powerful. She could probably wipe out the entire party, including their strongest character.
But they're still
And
attached to her, though, huh?
yeah, they became attached, and they never split away. So I have to be very careful though when they do combat. I always say, well, it's up to y'all. If y'all ask her to join, the problem is this: y'all can take it on yourselves, and the agency is going to be on y'all. The spotlight's going to be on y'all, and y'all going to pretty much figure out which way the game goes. But if you ask her to come in, she's going to wipe everything out, and the spotlight's going to fall to her. So I'm just warning y'all. Y'all can ask; it's y'all's choice. But if she comes in, she's going to make it pretty easy for you guys right now. And she has her
Nice.
reasons why she wouldn't. It's like, no, I'm not going to help you. You go do it. But
Yeah.
But if y'all force her and y'all roll dice, the agency's still on you guys because I'm having y'all try to persuade her. Y'all gonna have to really persuade her. But if y'all do, y'all gonna lose that edge of excitement. But if y'all don't care and y'all just want to win and get this guy that y'all hate, then she can come in and totally wreck with you guys. They ain't gonna pose a challenge. So that's the way I play it. I have to do the little building blocks and make sure that you guys are still having fun. And I don't mind if y'all go like y'all could. Who was it? Like Crinvia. Y'all have Crinvia. Y'all could ask any of those people in there to go and help you out and be like, okay, well, y'all can help. And there's people that are weaker than you, medium to y'all, and extremely powerful succubus in there. And if y'all wanted to ask them and see what happens if they join y'all's party, y'all can. But then I just play it dependent on the power that I have. I don't actually have rules. So I don't know what you think about that and if it's been fun for y'all, but yeah.
Oh no, it's very fun. No, and it's super fun to hear your different perspective on it. And I love to hear what other GMs are doing. But we're coming up on an hour now. I don't want it to keep your time any longer. Plus, my Veed recorder cuts off at an hour. So we have
For
two
sure.
and a half more minutes. But this is a great place to stop. But thank you so much for the post session conversation. I really, really appreciate hearing it. And I bet the audience got a lot of value from this conversation. Any final thoughts or pieces of advice for the game masters out there?
Uh, Lots of experimentation. You just got to go out there and pretty much play your game and then just be aware and watch body language. And sometimes you can't do that online, but maybe just ask questions and just keep doing what you're doing. It's better to run a game than no game and not have fun. So, yeah.
100%. All right. Well, thank you, DM Ramos, for the time. I really appreciate it. I'm having a super fun time. Definitely plan on taking Grom all the way to level 20 and beyond in this game. So looking forward to it. Hopefully he doesn't die. Hopefully. We'll see. You never know. Nothing's guaranteed out there. Right?
Exactly.
All right. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. You can find, once again, Dungeons and 20s, William's channel, William's new book, The Solaire World Setting, Campaign Setting. That is in the description, as well as the live stream of our last episode where I was a player playing in William's game. Check it out. Leave some comments. Let us know what you think after watching this. Do you agree with our takeaways or are we missing something? Drop a comment. Let us know. We'd love to hear it. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you roll some D100s for me at your next game, guys, and I will see you on the next one.